Episode 1. The sky wasn't right that night. I've worked in Grand Teton National Park for most of my life. Out here, you learn quickly that nature doesn't care about you. Storms roll in without warning. Animals vanish without trace. Trees fall on clear days, and rivers flood when skies are blue. But that summer, something far worse crept in. It wasn't weather. It wasn't wildlife. It was something else. It began on a Friday late August. My son Brandon had just turned 9, and I promised him a father-son weekend in the backcountry. Just the two of us. No phones, no radios, just firewood, trail mix, and a map I'd drawn from memory. He was so excited, kept asking if we'd see a bear or a moose. I told him maybe, but deep down, I just wanted to see him smile again. I'd been distant lately, too much overtime, too many quiet dinners at home. The trail we took wasn't on any official map. It cut through dense forest northwest of Jenny Lake, a spot most tourists never reach, but I knew it well. I'd been patrolling it for years, or at least, I thought I knew it. The first few hours were perfect. Crisp air, swaying pines, the faint sound of a river somewhere to the west. But around 3 p.m., Brandon stopped walking. "Dad," he said quietly. "What's that?" I followed his gaze to the sky. At first, I didn't see it. Then I did. A triangle. Not a plane. Not a drone. A matte black triangle just hovering above the ridge, motionless. No sound. No light. No wind displacement. Just stillness. And then, like someone flipped a switch, it blinked out. No sound. No trail, just gone. I looked at Brandon, probably a military thing. I lied, but my gut twisted. We set up camp before sundown, next to a fire ring I'd built years ago. Brandon asked again about the triangle. I told him it was nothing to worry about. He believed me. I didn't. That night, the forest felt different, too still, like even the bugs had agreed to shut up. We fell asleep after roasting marshmallows, and then I woke up. The ground was vibrating, not shaking, vibrating, like something massive was moving beneath us. Brandon's sleeping bag was empty. I sat up, called his name. No answer. My flashlight beam cut through the tent zipper, and that's when I saw the glow. Not from a fire, not from the moon, but a strange, pale white light about 30 yards away. Not bright, not pulsing, just hovering through the trees. And then I heard it. "Dad," Brandon's voice, soft, scared. "Dad, I'm over here." I ran. Episode 2. Something took my son. I ran into the dark. Barefoot, heart pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. "Brandon," I shouted. "Where are you?" His voice came again, faint, trembling. "I'm over here." "Dad." It hurts. The light led me deeper into the woods, not like a flashlight beam. This light moved. It glowed through the trees like fog, pale, cold. It didn't cast shadows. It erased them. Then I saw him, curled at the base of a tree, arms wrapped around his knees. But it wasn't Brandon, not the way I remembered him. His face was pale, lips dry and cracked. His eyes, they were dull, unfocused. And his skin, it had this strange, rubbery sheen to it, like it had been replaced. "Dad," he whispered. "Why does it hurt so much?" I dropped to my knees and touched his arm. It was cold, too cold, and something was wrong. His birthmark, a crescent-shaped spot just above his elbow, was gone. "Brandon," I asked. He looked up, blinked, Then his eyes rolled back and he collapsed. The light vanished, and so did the sound. It was like the forest had swallowed everything. I carried him back to the tent in a daze, wrapped him in both sleeping bags, stayed up the rest of the night with the shotgun across my lap and one hand on his chest to feel him breathe. When morning came, he seemed normal, color in his cheeks, eyes bright. He didn't remember anything. "Did we have s'mores?" he asked, smiling. I nodded slowly. "Yeah, buddy, we did. We hiked out that afternoon." I told myself he had a nightmare, sleepwalking. Maybe I did too, but I couldn't shake it. I kept checking his arm. The birthmark never came back, and neither did the boy I took into those woods. And Sabin was. That was 20 years ago. He's grown now, works at a bank, has a girlfriend. They talk about kids, but sometimes, when I look at him, really look, I feel it again. That cold, that wrongness, and I swear, he watches me when he thinks I'm not looking. Sometimes, he hums, a melody I don't recognize, one that sounds hollow, and I think whatever came out of that forest in his place, it's still waiting for me to forget who he really is, or worse, for me to remember. Episode 3. He's not my son. After we got home from the trip, everything seemed fine. For a while, Brandon went back to school. He laughed. He played video games. He begged for pizza on Fridays, but I couldn't shake it. That night in the woods clung to me like wet clothes. The triangle in the sky, the pulsing ground, the cold skin, and the missing birthmark. I asked my wife about it. "What birthmark?" she said. "Brandon's never had one." "Yes, he has," I insisted, "on his left arm, right above the elbow." She looked at me like I'd lost my mind. That night, I checked every baby photo, every picture from when he was a toddler. No mark, not even a blemish. It was like it had never existed, but I knew better. Something had taken my son in those woods, and it had brought back something else. I tried to ignore it, told myself I was being paranoid, overworked, trauma from a bad trip, until the night I found him standing in the backyard at 3 a.m., staring straight up at the sky. His eyes were wide, his mouth hung open, and he was humming that same hollow tune I didn't recognize. "Brandon," I called. He didn't respond. I stepped closer, touched his shoulder. He blinked, slowly turned. "Were you talking to someone?" I asked. He smiled too wide. "Just listening." "To what?" He looked up again. "To the ones who hum." That was when I knew for sure. This boy wasn't mine. He wore my son's face, his voice, his habits, but deep inside, something else was growing. Something that didn't blink quite right, that didn't cast the right shadow, that didn't remember asterisk. I didn't tell anyone. What could I say? Instead, I started keeping a journal, recording everything. The cold spots, the strange humming, the way he always avoided the woods after that. Then one day, he asked me a question that chilled me to the core. "Dad," he said, "do you ever feel like you're someone else's dream?" I didn't answer, because the thing looking back at me wasn't dreaming. It was waiting. Episode 4. The Man in the Mirror. A week after Brandon asked me about dreams, I noticed something else. His reflection. It didn't move right. It's not like in horror movies, where the mirror version blinks or moves when the real person doesn't. No, this was subtler, more insidious, like there was a half-second delay. like something was watching me asterisk through asterisk the reflection. Learning how to mimic a boy, it no longer remembered being. I started testing it. Casual questions. Hey bud, remember that trip to Yellowstone when you threw your shoe in the geyser? He nodded. That was funny. We never went to Yellowstone. Another night. I handed him a family photo, one from his 5th birthday party. He stared at it a little too long before smiling and saying, "That's the day we got the dog. We never had a dog. That thing in my house. It had gaps, glitches, like a corrupted memory file, trying to fill in the missing pieces with guesswork. And then, one night, I caught it standing in front of the bathroom mirror again, not brushing its teeth, not doing anything, just staring. I watched from the hallway. The door was cracked open an inch. The light from the mirror cast everything in silver. And then it spoke, not aloud, but in a whisper that slid across my skull like cold breath. Asterisk, asterisk, he knows. Asterisk, asterisk. I nearly fell backward. It didn't turn around, just smiled at itself. The next morning, Brandon was cheerful, ate pancakes, told me about a science project, as if nothing had happened. I tried to talk to my wife again. She told me I needed rest. Maybe she was right. So I took time off work, went back to the park, walked the old trails, tried to retrace my steps from that trip 20 years ago. The forest was quiet, too quiet. At one point, I found myself near the same tree where I'd found Brandon curled and cold. But now, that clearing was different. Burnt, blackened, as if lightning had struck, but only in that exact spot. And in the center of the charred earth, something had been carved, not by knife, but by heat. A triangle, perfect, sharp, deep. I didn't take a picture, didn't need to. It was already burned into my mind. And when I got home that night, Brandon was waiting for me. His eyes were darker, and he was humming again, that tune slow, rising, circling back on itself. And when he saw me, he stopped, smiled, and said, "You're almost ready, Dad." Asterisk, asterisk. Episode 5, Burn Marks and Silence. After Brandon said those words, "You're almost ready, Dad," I didn't sleep for 3 days. I started locking my bedroom door at night. I stopped eating what he cooked. My wife said I was acting crazy, paranoid, distant. But what was I supposed to say? That our son wasn't our son. That something from the forest had crawled into his skin and was now pretending to be a teenager. I started digging. Old ranger records, incident logs, missing persons reports from that area of Grand Teton. One file stood out from 1987. A solo hiker went missing near the same trail, reappeared 3 days later, with no memory of where he'd been. But his brother swore something was off. He came back looking like Tim. The man wrote, but that wasn't Tim. The file ended with a note. Asterisk hiker, committed to inpatient psychiatric care 6 weeks later, claimed his reflection blinked wrong. Asterisk. Sound familiar? I drove out to the site again. This time I brought gloves, a trowel, a camera. The triangle was still there, and the ground beneath it, it wasn't dirt, it was ash. I dug maybe a foot before I hit something. Smooth, round, a bone, small, like a child's. I dropped it, backed away. The trees didn't sway, the air didn't move, but I knew something was watching. From beneath, from inside. I took one photo and left. When I got home, Brandon was waiting again. Same smile, same humming, but now He held something in his hand, my old ranger badge, the one I lost on the trip 20 years ago. He handed it to me without a word, and then he said, "Asterisk, asterisk. You dropped this when they took me. Asterisk, asterisk." I froze. "What did you say?" His eyes flicked just briefly to the corner of the room. "I mean," he said smoothly, "I found it in the garage, but the look was there. The asterisk knowing asterisk. That night, I burned the photo. I buried the bone, and I started recording myself when I slept. The next morning, the camera was gone, but there were new burn marks on the floor beside my bed. 3 of them, laid out in a perfect triangle. Episode 6, I went back to the woods. 3 burn marks on the floor, perfectly spaced, blackened but cold to the touch. I didn't tell anyone. What could I say? That my not son had brought something back from the forest and left it beneath my bed. I started dreaming in reverse. Each night, I saw that camping trip again, the hike, the triangle in the sky, the pale light, but now I was watching from the trees, from behind something's eyes, as if asterisk I asterisk had been left behind and something else had gone back in my place, something wearing my name, something calling my son Dad. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to go back to the same trail, the same spot, the same night. I didn't tell my wife, didn't leave a note, just packed my gear and drove into the mountains. When I got there, the trail was gone. The trees had moved. The landscape looked the same, but it wasn't. The forest didn't want me there, but I walked anyway. Compass spun. GPS failed. I used memory. It took hours, but I found the spot. The tree where I found Brandon. The clearing where the triangle burned into the earth. It was darker now. Wrong. I stepped into the center of the mark, and the ground opened beneath me. No warning, no sound, just darkness swallowing me whole. I woke up underground. Stone walls, wet roots, the smell of old fire and metal, and humming from all directions, the same melody Brandon always sang. I stood, followed it, deeper into the dark, until I saw a shape, thin, pale, curled into a ball. A boy. I stepped closer. He looked up. Dad. It was Brandon, the real one. Eyes wild, voice weak, covered in dirt and old clothes. "Help me," he whispered. And behind me, I felt it, a shadow that stretched too far, and a voice that didn't speak words, but feelings. Asterisk, asterisk, only one leaves. Asterisk, asterisk. Episode 7, the other Brandon. Only one leaves. The words weren't spoken. They were asterisk impressed asterisk into my mind like heat on flesh. I turned around and saw it. The other Brandon, same face, same clothes, same eyes, but wrong. His skin was stretched too tight, his movements too smooth. His smile didn't reach his eyes. They just shimmered like wet stones under moonlight. Behind him, the tunnel pulsed a heartbeat in the earth itself. "Dad," he said, "I'm scared." The real Brandon whimpered behind me. "I don't want to go back." The thing stepped closer. "You promised we'd always be together." I raised my flashlight. Its beam flickered. The thing didn't flinch. "You left me," it hissed. "You asterisk brought asterisk me home." And suddenly, I remembered. That night, the cold, the pulsing ground. I asterisk had asterisk made a choice. I didn't know it then, but I asterisk chose wrong. Asterisk. I grabbed the real Brandon's hand and turned to run. The tunnel twisted. The walls shifted. Branches clawed at my face from nowhere. The other Brandon howled, but the sound didn't echo. It absorbed everything. It was hunger turned to noise. I ran until my legs gave out, collapsed at the base of a tree. Brandon real breathing beside me. I looked up. We were in the clearing again, the one with the triangle. It was glowing now, white hot. A figure stood in the center. Not Brandon, not me, but something in between. It raised its hand, 3 fingers, then pointed to the boy beside me, then to me, then to its chest. 3 parts, 1 choice. A voice entered my skull. Asterisk, asterisk. The one you keep, must forget. Asterisk, asterisk. Before I could answer, light exploded. When I woke up, I was home, in bed, alone. And Brandon, he was downstairs, humming, smiling. But now, I didn't remember if he was the one I saved or the one I left behind. Episode 8, What I Brought Back. Brandon was humming again. Same tune, always the same. And for the first time, I didn't feel fear. I felt confusion because I couldn't remember which one I brought back. Every photo looked right. Every memory sounded right. But something in my gut, in the part of me that knew my son before he could speak, whispered, asterisk, asterisk, this is not him. Asterisk, asterisk. I started testing him again. Small questions. Inside jokes. Songs we used to sing on the trail. He got them all right. Too right. Like he was reciting lines from a script he didn't understand. Then, late one night, I found him asleep on the couch. Or at least, pretending, because his eyes were open, not blinking, just staring at the ceiling, and his mouth moved, barely, repeating a single phrase. Asterisk, asterisk, the mouth is open. The mouth is open. The mouth is open. Asterisk, asterisk. I backed away. My knees gave out. I sat there, in the hallway, shaking. The next morning, he acted like nothing happened, but something had changed. Not in him, in the house. Mirrors showed corners that didn't exist. Clocks slowed and sped up at random. My reflection lagged. One night, I saw movement in the window, not outside, but asterisk inside the glass asterisk. A copy of me, standing perfectly still, staring back, until it asterisk smiled asterisk. I turned the mirror around, but the smile stayed with me. I called Professor Reed, an old friend who studied folklore and anomalous belief systems. Told him everything. He didn't laugh. He just asked one question. Have you checked asterisk your asterisk birthmark lately? I hadn't. I ran to the bathroom, peeled up my sleeve. It was gone, just like Brandon's. And in that moment, I understood. I hadn't brought back my son. I hadn't even brought back asterisk me asterisk. I'd brought back what the forest let me leave with. And whatever it was still learning how to wear my face. Episode 9. I remembered too much. I stared at the blank skin where my birthmark used to be. It felt cold, hollow, like it had been erased, not healed. I didn't know who I was anymore, but I knew what I wasn't. Me. The next few days blurred. Time stretched and folded. Brandon, or the thing wearing him, watched me more closely now, studying me like I'd broken character. I stopped sleeping, stopped eating. Every time I passed a mirror, I checked for something new. Sometimes my reflection moved its lips. Sometimes it smiled. Once, it winked. And then, one night, I found the triangle again. Not in the forest, not in the clearing, but in the corner of my bedroom, burned into the floorboards, smoldering, alive. and when I blinked, it was gone. But the humming remained, that looping, spiraling melody. It echoed through the pipes, through the lights, through my bones. I recorded it, played it backwards, slowed it down, and when I did, I heard words, a message. Asterisk, asterisk, bring him back. Asterisk, asterisk. That night, I dreamed of the forest again, the real one, not the twisted thing it had become. I saw Brandon, asterisk my asterisk Brandon, standing at the edge of a frozen lake. He was crying, not calling for help, just whispering, asterisk, asterisk, I never left. Dad, you did. Asterisk, asterisk. I woke up screaming, and I knew what I had to do. One last time I had to go back, to the trail, to the mouth, to the place I traded my son's soul for a lie I could live with. I didn't pack a bag, didn't bring a flashlight, only the notebook and a rope, because if I couldn't bring him back, I wasn't coming out either. Episode 10. The one that stayed. The forest was waiting. Not quiet this time. Not still. It breathed slow and deep like the lungs of something waking from a long, satisfied sleep. I walked the trail I thought I knew, through woods that shifted. When I looked away, the triangle wasn't on the ground anymore. It was in the trees, in the sky. In my head, it had always been there. By nightfall, I reached the clearing. The mouth was open, a spiral of earth and bone, pulling inward toward the black center that had swallowed my son and maybe my soul. I stepped inside. It didn't feel like walking. It felt like falling while standing still. I didn't know how long I was down there. Time unraveled. Then I saw them. Rows and rows of figures, frozen, shivering. Some looked like people. Some looked like things that asterisk used asterisk to be people. And in the center, a boy. Brandon. Real Brandon. Still 9 years old. Still afraid. He looked up. Dad. Tears blurred my vision. I'm here, I said. He ran into my arms. He was warm, real, breathing. I never left, he whispered. You just forgot. Behind me, something stirred. The hollow shape, all bone and shadow and memory. You cannot have both, it whispered. I turned, holding Brandon tight. You made a deal, it said. You left one behind. One must always remain. I stepped forward. Then take me. It paused. You will forget. Everything. Everyone. Even him. I looked down at Brandon. His eyes. The same ones I saw the day he was born. I nodded. Do it. And the world shattered. And Sabin Sanmas. I woke up in the woods. Alone. Sunlight through the trees. Footsteps approached. Dad. A voice called. I turned. A teenager stood there. Backpack. Hiking boots. Eyes wide. I found you, he said. I didn't recognize him, but I smiled anyway. I'm glad. He hugged me like he knew me. Maybe he did. Maybe I did, too, somewhere deep inside. Even if I didn't remember, and Sagin Salwas, they say memory is what makes us human. I'm not sure who I am anymore, but I know I chose love, even if it cost me everything.